super easy for your deals to get messed up. And especially if you're doing like novation deals where you're dealing with a retail buyer and a retail agent, we only will send it to a title company that we know is going to close this deal, that can close it, because I don't want your retail buyer to get spooked or your agent to get spooked or someone gets the wrong documents and they see that you're making a $40,000 spread and now everybody's upset and people are backing out of stuff, right? Because still at the end of the day, Mrs. Smith went to my Carrot website and I told her that we could get this deal done, right? So it's my job to make sure that this deal gets finished because, Mrs. Smith's got to move to Phoenix because her cat has psoriasis.
Hey friends, welcome back to the Evergreen Marketing Podcast by Carrot.com, where we help you real estate investors build a business of freedom and impact by dialing in your online marketing. I'm your host, Brady Winder. You know me. I got my friend David Olds on the podcast, one of the OGs in our industry. Haven't had him on the Carrot podcast before, so I'm really excited. And we're going to be talking about why deals fall through the cracks at closing, how to prevent it, how to close more deals from the leads you're already getting. So, David, we were talking before the podcast. You and I are both podcast hosts, sick of backstories, so we're going to skip it. You guys can Google David if you want.
Yeah. Like we said, Red Rich Dad Poor Dad got involved in EZREI, started doing some deals, made a bunch of money. There we go.
There it is. There's the backstory.
Yeah. My backstory's out there plenty. Even I get tired of telling it sometimes.
Yeah. So, David, you're the guy from ezREI Closings. Yeah. Tell me how you help investors in a nutshell, why you like the work that you do, why you keep waking up to do it every day.
Yeah, absolutely love it. So first off, for me, again, I've been an investor since 2002, but a full-time wholesaler since 2009. And one of the things that we really struggled with as we started going virtual and going into all these different markets was finding title companies and handling all of the problems that come up. Because, one thing we do as investors, first, our job is to help people, but two, we go out and we look for people with problems, right? The more problems that we can solve, the deeper discount, right? So if I can solve foreclosure and bankruptcy and, child support liens and bad tenants, right? All of these problems, then I can, push that price down and get a better deal. But on the other side, the flip side of the transaction is I tell my buyer, hey, Brady, I'm going to get you clear title and proration of taxes. Well, all those problems that I have somehow need to be solved. So that's what we do for investors, hundreds of investors and wholesalers across the country, is really we're just their back office, right? Really, by hiring us, you're getting your time back. And we do all of the paperwork from the moment you get your contract signed all the way till closing. And what that does, right, is it allows our clients, the reason they're so successful is they're spending more time talking to their sellers and buyers instead of gathering paperwork and figuring out what's a monument of title? Where do I find a lost death certificate? What is this trust document? Why do I need this? What are these affidavits, right? How do I solve these problems, right? You can offload that to us and, we'll do over 3,500 files this year for our clients. So we're very, very experienced in this business. And our clients love it because they don't have to deal with it anymore. Because dealing with the title and the transactions part of our business is the worst part. It's like walking through quicksand, right? What's fun, right? Talking to Mrs. Smith and I'm getting a deal and it's $20,000 and I'm gonna make a lot of money. Great, like that jazzes you up, right? That gets you out of bed. That gives you that adrenaline rush. And then selling that deal, right? Oh, I'm calling Trevor and he's gonna buy this deal and I'm gonna make, 20, 25, 40, 50, whatever it is, right? I'm gonna make all this money. And then you call the title company and they're like, oh, well, was he married when she died? And I don't know. And then I get an answer, but then there's another question. Well, was there a divorce decree? I don't know. Like, oh, I need that. Great. And then I think I've answered the questions. Oh, but what about the kids? And it's like, it's this never ending just quest from the title company to ask you one question at a time. And can you do it? Yeah, you can probably answer a lot of it, but it's going to take up 20 or 30% of your time. And our clients have all found that they would much rather have that time either to sit on the beach or put it back into their deals, right? And that's the kind of stuff that smart CEOs do to spin the wheel of their business faster and faster.
Yeah, the time and the energy too,
Yeah.
man. Like I've learned from Trevor, like doing energy audits and looking at, okay, what's draining my energy and what's giving me energy. That's huge. And I
Yeah.
can't imagine that like a lot of people are getting a ton of energy from researching title issues and
No.
trying to get a deal past the finish line after they've already
Yeah.
poured all this work into it.
Yeah, you get these emails from title people who just, and also people think like every title agent is the smartest person ever. And most of them are just goofball banana heads that have been in the business for a couple months. But, they just forward you an email from an abstractor and it's like Latin, and I've spent, I've gotten like a one paragraph and had to Google like every third word just to try to figure out what it is that they're talking about. So, but you bring up Trevor, guys, if you have not seen him speak or listened to him on some podcasts, one of the absolute smartest guys I've just ever come across. So, I'm sure if you're on this podcast, you've seen him speak, but just in awe every time I meet him and get to talk to him.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate that. I'm biased, but I'll back it up too.
No, he's freaking great.
He knows his stuff, man.
Yeah.
100% authentic. David, what's one of the craziest like horror stories from trying to close a deal that you've heard?
Man, we get so many. Fraud is a big thing right now. First, let me back up and say this. This is a statistic that I was stunned when I heard it, and we researched it. And again, we do a lot of transactions, so we have a lot of time spent with people like First American Title Insurance and Fidelity National and WSG and WFG, all those people. And First American told us this year that 50% of all contracts that are signed will never close. Like 50% of the files at title companies will never close. 50%. And so that really backs into, what are the reasons for that? And part of it is what we just talked about, right? We go out there and we find wacky deals. And if you're not at the right title company that's investor friendly, and we can definitely talk about investor friendly title companies and what you think is friendly and, but title companies saying, oh no, man, we can't close that unless you do probate. Oh, we can't close that until they do bankruptcy, right? They just stall you and they don't want to go through the work. So, part of the things that kill your deal is that. But fraud is a big thing right now. We see it so much. On the transaction side, and then also in our title company. And a super common example is when, a parent dies and you have a bunch of heirs, brothers and sisters, and they're all fighting. Like this is probably the most common thing that we see all the time is one heir, oh no, I'm the only heir. I'm the only surviving child. And we're like, yeah, okay, great. Let's get the death certificate and a copy of an obituary. And the reason we get the obituary is because most people don't think to lie the day grandma dies, right? They put in there you don't want to leave anybody off, right? So obituaries are really great to tell you who all the surviving family members are. We're like, hey, Bobby, what about like your two brothers and your sister? Oh, they're not dead, but they're in Europe.
I can't imagine throwing my siblings under the bus. Dude, they don't exist. It's just me.
Man, have you ever heard that? Like when people die, like it gets ugly with families. And it's brutal. But so that's the biggest thing is people trying to think like, I'm going to sell mom's house and I'm going to get all the money and screw my brothers and sisters. And that's just not the way this business works. Title insurance is called title insurance for a reason. And it's very regulated. And, people are ensuring that this transfer gets done correctly. So lots of, on the seller side, lots of fraud there. People trying to sell houses that aren't theirs. Fraudulent deeds. We see those every so often.
So like closely related friends or relatives or just like
random
people on the other side of the world? Yeah.
Memphis, Tennessee is going through like this epidemic of people targeting that city and trying to sell properties that aren't theirs. Really? One of my partners, I have one partner in the transactions company, and then there are three of us in the title company. And we were just talking about this today. My partner, Megan, she runs another title company in town, Your Key Title. And she had somebody actually go online, pull up an image of a deed that she signed and stamped as a notary. And they were able to lift off her notary stamp and signature and fraudulently make some more deeds. This girl's now arrested in Ohio, they said, and being extradited to a federal court because now she's committed crimes in two states. But that's the level of fraud that's going on. That's why it's so important to make sure that you have somebody handling your transactions and then a title company that's really paying attention to all of the little things for sure.
That's crazy. So what are some of the questions that
Yeah.
investors should be asking to like find a
Mhm.
investor friendly title company?
Yeah. So if you're going to look at a title company, what we do, right? So when we started ezREI Closings, we knew that we were going to handle, the paperwork for investors and wholesalers across the country. So it was important to be in all 50 states first off. And my fantasy, just tell you straight up, my fantasy was, oh, we're going to find one nationwide title company and we'll just partner with them and send all of our deals to them and it'll be great.
Yeah.
Well, a couple things happened. One, there is no title company that's truly nationwide and licensed in all 50 states. There's not
Mm.
one. So most people operate on some type of a partnership system. The other thing was we went through a couple of these big nationwide title companies that everybody would know their name, and they flew to Chattanooga, they flew us down, they came and met us at events. We want all of your business. I'm like, okay, great. And we broke them because we do so many transactions in a week for our clients, like 30. They couldn't handle 30 extra files, right?
Oh
Because that's a
gosh.
lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot of
Yeah.
work. So, with that, we realized, okay, all right. And I wasn't for this. My partner Heather, she decided, okay, we're just going to find different title companies in every state who are going to be investor friendly. Because one thing we know about title companies is they're not all equal, right? They don't really love investor business because we do bring them crazy, right? Like we bring them
Yeah.
goofy stuff. And
It makes them think a little bit harder.
well, yeah.
A little
So
more research.
the way now that I own a couple of title companies, what I've learned is it is an insurance business, right? So let's just say it's $100,000 house. Let's use round numbers. $100,000 house, $1,000 title insurance policy. That's really where the title company makes their money. All the rest of the fees they're pretty standard. A lot of it is regulated by the state, but between a good and bad title company, you might have a couple $100 swing. Like that's it, right?
Okay.
So personally, I don't care if I have to pay more. I definitely want the better title company because I've had a closing that went terrible once. And I had to sue to get the title back. But anyways,
Sheesh.
so with that $100,000 house, the title company charges the buyer $1,000 for a title policy, which basically is saying that we guarantee that there are no encumbrances, no liens, nobody has any claim on this property from the day you close. It's all yours, Brady. It's just yours. What you do from this minute on is on you, but we guarantee that there's no problem. And so when title companies do that, they're taking on that liability. And the way that it works for us is it's a deal split with these national underwriters, right? 70-30, 80-20, whatever it is. So out of that $1,000, I get to keep $800. We ship $200 off to First American or whatever it is. Sounds like a great deal for the title company. But if I miss something, right? If something was missed, some nephew who had some claim to the property and that nephew decides to come back down the road, right? Or I missed a Lowe's lien or whatever, right? Anything that could possibly happen. When that claim is filed on that $100,000 house that we insured, I'm responsible for 80% of it.
Hmm.
See,
That's a
like
big deal.
I'm responsible for 80,000 because I took the 80-20 split. If it was 70-30, I'd have been responsible for 70. So every title company makes that decision yourself. So the reason I like to tell that story is because I didn't understand it after 20 years in the business until I started owning title companies. And we hear that a lot, right? Clients of ours, we like, oh, just make the title company close it. Just make them do it. I'm like, whoa, Trigger, take it easy. Like these people, I know you want them to do that so you can make your $20,000 assignment fee, but they are literally going to go on the hook for 80% of $400,000 for you.
Sheesh. Yeah.
Right? That's how this business works.
Yeah.
So, as an owner, like we have to always look at those and say, oh, hey, okay, are we willing to override this $8,000 mortgage from 20 years ago that we think is, like it's an insurance game and it's gambling. So to answer your question, before I went off on a little sidetrack there, when we go for our clients and we go to a state, right? Let's say West Virginia, right? Just because a title company may do a wholesale deal doesn't mean they want to do a novation or a subject to or a creative deal, right? Because for a title company, the easiest business is retail business, like realtor business, right? Oh, Joe and Sue bought this house for 400,000 3 years ago. Now they're selling it for, whatever, 450,000, and it's an easy policy. We're going to make a bunch. Like there's very little odds that something is squirrely there. Whereas investors, again, bankruptcy, divorce, all the crazy stuff. So that's why they don't like to do our business. That's why when you call out of title companies, they won't work with wholesalers. So when we go into a state, when we look for let's say we have a novation. For us, we already have partners in every single state, if even where we're not licensed, and we will make them show us like, hey, I want to see the paperwork. You can black everything out, but where you actually did a novation, right? I want to see it. I want to know that you understand how to do this type of a deal, because if not, right? And this is how I look at it for our clients. You're trusting me to get your deal closed, right? That's what we do. We're transaction coordinators. I don't want to just send it to some secretary and we call them and they go, oh, hey, Penelope, can you do a novation deal? Oh, yeah. Just send it over. Right. And then 3 weeks later, 4 weeks later, we're getting ready to close. And finally, some underwriter or somebody in their office looks at it and like, oh, we don't do these types of deals.
Yeah.
Right. Well, now you're going to be pissed and you're my client, and who should you be mad at? Me. Because I screwed that up. Right.
Yeah.
So we're very, very careful in the people that we work with. Doesn't mean everybody's perfect. No, that's why we started our own title company. But you want to ask those types of questions. Like, do you understand what an assignment of contract is? Right. Do you do those types of deals? Are you comfortable with doing a purchase subject to the underlying mortgage? Great. But will you do it on an FHA house or a VA loan? Right. So you have to ask those kinds of questions. And that could be, you have to call 10 places. Right. If you're virtual and in a new city that you've never been in. So, or you could just call us, like we've got all that information on lock and you can go back to getting your next deal. So yeah, just asking good questions and don't just, take somebody's, kind of blowing you off. Yeah. Just submit your file online and we'll get to it. Right. And then you think you're going to close your deal. And what happens is you get to the end and maybe they kick your deal out and now your buyer's mad and your seller's mad. And, good chance your deal's going to blow up and that $20,000 is going to go right out the window.
Right. Well, it's funny it's not funny. It's crazy. But when you walk through that, like, not doing due diligence or the title company not doing their due diligence and then the deal falling through right before closing, what I picture in my head is just because I'm an online marketer, the first thing I see in my brain is a Google business profile with one review and it's a 1-star. I'm like, oof, man, like you could have done all the steps exactly how you were supposed to, done all your stuff. And then if the title company is off, bam, it's on your reputation as a real estate investor. And all it takes is one really bad review to really put a dent in all the hard work you've done in your brand reputation. So
you've got a seller who's mad with you, a buyer who's mad, which the seller, that sucks. Your deal's gone, but we've all lost $20,000, $100,000 deals. But now that buyer's certainly never going to buy from you again. Both of them are probably going to leave you a bad review. And what is our job as an investor, as a wholesaler or investor, right? We're out here marketing and it's to solve people's problems.
Yeah.
Right. Like we talked earlier about trust. Right? We go to your Carrot site. We've built a ton of trust, right? That's what's going to help you get that lead and convert that lead into a contract, right? But then you actually have to perform, right? You've got to sell that deal. So hopefully you put it under contract at the right price. Now you've got to do a good job marketing it. But even once you market it and you find your buyer, well, now it's the third part of the business that most people just gloss over and ignore is I've got to get this deal closed. And statistics say 50% of them will not close, right? There are going to be some people who close 90, some people will close 10, right? This is an average from First American, so I trust them. But, do you have the expertise to get this deal over the line when people start asking for, monument of title and, we need a death certificate. And the seller says, well, I don't have a death certificate. Do you know where to go get one? We do it all the time. This property's in a trust, but they've lost the trust documents or it was burned up in a fire. Holy smokes, what do you do? Well, we know because we, again, 3,500 files this year. This is stuff we do every day. Before I just walked in here, we were talking about a deal. Somebody was talking about it. And one of the heirs is in prison.
Yeah.
So we're like, oh, okay, great. Well, we need their inmate number and, all those things because we do them. We actually like doing deals where people are in prison. You know why? Very easy to find them. The state very close tabs on where they're at.
Easy to track down.
It's much harder to find somebody who's been missing for 5 years. But that's just the kind of stuff that can go sideways. It's super easy for your deals to get messed up. And especially if you're doing like novation deals where you're dealing with a retail buyer and a retail agent, you have to control your deal. That's one of the things that we do is, we only will send it to a title company that we know is going to close this deal, that can close it. Because I don't want your retail buyer to get spooked or your agent to get spooked or someone gets the wrong documents and they see that you're making a $40,000 spread and now everybody's upset and people are backing out of stuff, right? Because still at the end of the day, Mrs. Smith went to my Carrot website and I told her that we could get this deal done. Right. So
Yeah.
it's my job to make sure that this deal gets finished because, Mrs. Smith's got to move to Phoenix because her cat has psoriasis or whatever it is. Right.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And I appreciate that attitude on it too. I think it's dangerous to see that as a loosey-goosey responsibility, like to not take it seriously if the deal falls through. Like, hey, there's a human being with a family on the other end of this deal. Like you gotta, like, the deal has to go through. So.
Yeah. I used to, when we ran Nationwide Property Liquidators, which one of the biggest wholesalers in the country up until last year. And I would tell my team that, listen, like, this is a real seller. Like, I get it. We're very cavalier. We're ringing bells, hitting gongs. Like, we're having a party here in the office every time we get a deal, but this is a real seller. Like, this is somebody who's losing sleep at night, right? They inherited it, whatever, right? Whatever their motivation is. Like, we need to treat them with the respect that they're due, right? They're expecting us to solve this problem. We don't put stuff under contract that we don't at least feel comfortable, like this is the right number. Does stuff come up? Of course, right? Like, we can have a whole long conversation about that. But we feel like this is a number that we can help you at. If it works, great. If it doesn't, that's okay. But once we contract that, the clock's ticking,
Yeah.
You can hear the ticker going, like, I got 30 days, 45 days, 60 days, whatever it is. I got to make this thing happen, right? So these are real sellers with real problems and real houses and things that we're going to solve. And then on the flip side, this is a real buyer. I saw during when we were booming a couple of years ago at wholesalers online are like, these buyers are so stupid. They should buy this. It's a deal. I'm like, bro, relax. You don't have $400,000 to wire to nobody, right?
Yeah.
So keep in mind, these buyers are wiring real money. Like, give them a minute to make their decision. It's okay. Right? Like, it's going to be fine. Don't get, don't be so cavalier over all this stuff. Just because to us, it's just a piece of paper and a picture on a website, right? These are real people that we're solving their problems for.
Absolutely, man. Speaking of prison, I just wanted to say this. Speaking of prison, I don't know if I've shared this on the podcast recently, but we had a member just this year, I think it was summertime, in Florida, generated a lead from someone Googling, can I sell my house while my spouse is in jail in Florida?
Good. That's awesome.
That's what they Googled. Like, the amount of time it takes to Google that, so niche and specific.
Yeah.
And they had our member had a blog post written specifically for that. They found their blog post.
Yeah.
They wrapped up the deal because it was like, I think it was like a $50,000 or $60,000 wholesale deal. It was crazy. Yeah.
And I'll bet you that would pull from anywhere in the country, right? Because how many blog posts are out there? How do I sell with my spouse in prison?
Exactly. And there's so many niche things like that. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, a couple more questions for you, man. What are some of the things investors can do? Like, what are the things you recommend to investors even before they are working with you guys, like to do better due diligence, ask better questions, do better research from the moment they get a lead?
Yeah, 100%. Great question. Obviously, of those 50% of deals that don't close, I feel like they break down very easily into two parts. One is title problems. Great. Let's set that aside. But the other part generally is they can't find a buyer. Right. So again, let's take that and let's work backwards from there. Chances are they're asking too much, right? Like, it's not the right price because everything will sell for a price, right? I don't care. Like, I used to not believe that, but price, will always it'll solve a lot of problems. Now, I don't ever want my dispo team to, always rely on that, right? We want to have good marketing. We want to do all those types of things. But, let's assume you have great marketing in place and you can't sell this particular house or property or whatever it is. Well, it's price, right? At the end of the day, it's going to be price. So let's go backwards. The reason that you're too high is probably because your underlying contract is too high, right? So this comes back to, great, I just got my lead. It came in off my Carrot site. I'm going to call the seller because it's mostly virtual deals fall apart far more than a deal where I stood in the house and could tell the floor was leaning and it smelled like candy, right? So to answer your question, the thing that I think I know people can do better is on the acquisition side, asking good questions and being very thorough. And the challenge there is to do it in a way that's you're building rapport, it's relatable. And obviously, the seller should sense that you do want to help them, right? We all should be in this business to try to help people. We're not psychotic where it's just all about the money. So when I say asking good questions, hey, Mrs. Smith, great. Tell me about the kitchen. Oh, kitchen's really nice and clean. Everything works great. And they just move on. Awesome. But now the pictures come back, right? And you look at it and you go, oh, I probably should have asked her about, tell me more about the kitchen. When was the last time it was remodeled? Oh, back in 1965. Everything is in great shape. It's got a green countertop with metal banding around the counter edge. And right. Well,
I can smell it right now.
Even if it is clean and functional,
yeah.
like I should have asked those questions, because now I would offer less, because I know in my head that this is going to need a kitchen remodel for $30,000.
Yeah, it's a tear out. Yep.
Yeah, right. And that's fair. Like, if it needs a kitchen remodel, it needs a kitchen remodel. Hey, Mrs. Smith, I get it. Houses in your neighborhood are selling for $240,000. However, let's look at those. That 240 is a house that's already got a new kitchen, right? What do you think it would cost to put in a new kitchen? Oh, $50,000. Okay. Right. So it's that type of stuff, right? One, understanding the true motivation, and two, the real condition of the house, so that I could put the right number on it. And if I could put the right number on it, well, now when I put my 20, 30, whatever, 40, whatever assignment fee I want to put on it, I can make sure that the price I'm going to market at is apples and apples with similar properties in that condition that have sold. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Man.
So that can relate to, the roof and the yard. And, I've done so many houses, is your plumbing working good? Oh, well, no, it's broken underneath the house and it smells like sewage. Well, that's a thing, right?
Yeah.
Like the more of those types of questions you can ask and get answers to, the better. Is your house on a main road? Right. Well, that's not going to comp the same as a house that's in 3 blocks, right, in the middle of a subdivision.
Yeah.
So just things like that. And always, here's the most important thing that I try to teach my consulting clients and my team in acquisitions, right? You have to understand, what is my end buyer going to do with this deal? How does the end buyer make money, right? We always want to start with the end in mind. So if I can look at this and go, oh, this is a rental property, right? The tenant's month to month, great. Now I can sell this as a rehab or a rental, right? Because they could get that tenant out within 30 days. But if the tenant has 11 months left on the lease, well, now I know the only person who's going to buy this is a landlord. What is the return that they're looking for? And now I can work backwards from there, right? Or this is land. Somebody's going to build a new house here. How is your end buyer going to make money? And let's backwards engineer that to get to the right price. And that will dramatically increase your close rate.
Yeah. What's the highest and best use?
Yeah.
I like how you said that. Start with the end in mind. Yeah. You can avoid a lot of headache.
Yeah. Everything we do, that's literally one of our, guiding lights here, from when we were wholesaling to coaching to running easy and running the title company. What is the end goal? Let's stay focused on that. Okay. I want to make money. Before that, I need to find a buyer who's willing to pay for it. Great. What are my buyers looking for in this market? Yeah.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. Well, I love that. Thanks for sharing that. I want to kind of wrap it up here, but a couple questions before we do. I'm curious, for people that are investors working with ezREI, how much time on average would you say you're saving clients?
We've talked to them and over and over and over again, and I'm going to say anywhere between 20 and 30%. The two things that I hear most often are, 2-3 months after we've started working with somebody, because we have a client success manager and she talks to every client every month, is, oh my God, I didn't realize how much time this was taking me, right? Because it's just like the death of 1,000 paper cuts that we just think we have to do, right? Oh, I've got to field all these calls from the title company. I've got to run back over to the seller. I've got to call the seller. I've got to collect this. I got to track this down. And it's a phone call, an email, it's 15 minutes here, an hour here, 2 hours there, right? So that over the course of time, you don't realize how much that's taking from you. So once we take that off your plate and now you're focused on your deals, right? That's where we're seeing that growth. It happened to me. This podcast studio that I'm sitting in was our original transactions office when we were running a big wholesale company. And Heather, my partner now, she was my first TC. And I remember after we brought her in and got her up and trained, like one day I came in, I'm like, Heather, what is this $22,000 deposit? She's like, oh, dummy, that's that deal from like 4 weeks ago that you sold. Like, I forgot completely about that, because now I was focused on marketing and I was focused on my team and focused on that instead of, did somebody show up to sign? Oh, we need a mobile notary, like all that kind of stuff, right? So they're definitely getting their time back. So that's the first thing. Awesome. Is, oh my God, I didn't realize how much time this was taking me. And number two really is, holy smokes, I didn't realize somebody else could do this for me.
Yeah.
Like, they don't know. Like, I talk to people all the time and they're like, you can do transactions for me. I don't have to do that anymore. I don't have to hire somebody and try to train them in something that I'm not even good at. It'd be like me trying to train someone to change a carburetor. No idea,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
so we've got people out there that are trying to train a VA or something even worse. And, anyway, so those are the two things. But I would conservatively say 20 to 30% of your time, especially depending upon the type of deal.
That's awesome. I love the way you put that. It's crazy how we get stuck in our own head sometimes and we think like, oh, I'm the only person that can do this. And if you really pause to think about that, and I'm talking to myself, like we all do this, like it's pretty cocky to think that, oh, I'm the only one that can do this job. This is my specific nuanced knowledge, especially with like hiring an assistant, like all the things people do themselves, like thinking I got to do all this. Like you can't hire an assistant. No.
I thought a lot about that because I was that guy, right?
Yeah.
Like, in fact, my brother was just ringing my phone. When we worked together, he'd be like, oh, we got to hire some people or a VA. We got to do all that. And I wore this as a badge of honor. No, nobody's as smart as me. Nobody's as good as me. Nobody's going to care as much as me, all of that stuff. And I think that's a sickness that a lot of us have as entrepreneurs, right? Because we're so amazing at one part of our business, right? There's something like you don't start any kind of business unless you're awesome at something, right? Whether it's acquisitions or dispositions or building websites, right? Like we're so good at something, right? Like Trevor may be the greatest SEO website builder ever, but is he great at accounting, right?
Yeah.
He may be, I don't know. But typically, people who are high functioning entrepreneurs, like and visionaries, like they're great at that one thing, but all the other stuff is absolute crap. Right.
Yeah.
Our accountants hate us, our bookkeepers hate us, our lawyers hate us, right? Like I've had emails with all of them today because we're not detail oriented, So whatever it is there somebody else that really should be doing this? Like, yeah, they don't care as much as you, but they're still 2, 3, 4 times better because it's the thing that they love to do.
Yeah, they care. Yeah. The biggest thing that stuck out is like, you think nobody's going to care as much as me. And that's just such a lie. Yeah. Visionaries need executors around them.
That's right. And that's, it took me a long time to get to that point where I have people where like they come to me with the ideas like, hey, probably like you, right? Like, hey, here's the stuff that we should be doing. I'm like, oh, that's why I hired you because you're the video guy or the website guy or, you're that person and you can come in and tell me how to run my business better than I can. And that's the ultimate goal is to build that team around you that kind of believes in your vision, sees where you're going, and wants to support that, wants to be a part of it. And that's, building culture, which you guys have an amazing culture. One day I'm going to get my little carrot guy like you got behind you there. But yeah, you guys have absolutely built probably one of the best cultures in real estate.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. It's a magical thing. It's hard to quantify, hard to put a pin in, but yeah I appreciate that.
Yeah, I know. So hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, that does. I love that, man. Guys, everybody listening, get out of your own head. Stop thinking that you are the only one that can do the job. Get a team around you. Get people like David around you that can help you out. Don't try to do it alone. So where can people find you, David, if they want to work with ezREI?
Yeah, ezreiclosings.com, the letter E, the letter Z, REI, closings with an S.com. That's the easiest place. You can jump on there. We've got information, pictures of our team, all those types of things. But you can book a call on your schedule, talk to me or somebody on the team, and let's look at your business and see if we would be a good fit. Let's see, how we could help you grow next year. Instagram, David Olds REI. We post a ton of content on there, and I do my best to answer all the messages. So if you have something for me, hit me up there, and we can definitely chat.
Sweet, man. Well, thanks for hopping on. This has been a fun conversation.
Yeah.
Glad we got to do a podcast together. And thanks for tuning in.
Awesome, man. It's been a great week. I loved hanging out with you.
Awesome. All right. Thanks everybody for watching. If you got value out of this, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, share with a friend, helps more people find the podcast, helps us know we're doing a good job. If you have any ideas, feel free to reach out, email me, brady@carrot.com. I'd always love to chat. Love talking to our members. So thanks again for listening, and we'll see you later.